I still remember the exact moment everything changed. We were supposed to be celebrating our 10th wedding anniversary. Jenna had gone all out. Handmade reservation cards, some private garden table at a trendy restaurant in Buckhead, the works. But instead of champagne and fond memories, we ended up screaming in our kitchen. My name is Carter. I'm 39 years old, and I live in Atlanta. I'm a data analyst for a fintech firm, mostly working from home. Quiet life. Steady marriage. At least I thought so. That night, before we left for dinner, I was sitting at the kitchen island waiting for Jenna to finish getting ready. I absent-mindedly scrolled through my phone, flipping through social media when a photo caught my eye. One of those tag group shots from Jenna's gym's holiday party a few nights earlier. There she was, right in the middle of it, in that emerald green dress I'd helped her pick out. But it wasn't the dress that got me. It was the man she was leaning into, her arms around his neck, his hand gripping her waist like they were alone in a hotel room, not surrounded by co-workers and catered shrimp skewers. It didn't even look like a candid. It looked intimate. Intentional. "Hey," I said when she walked in, all heels and perfume. "Who's this?" She tilted her head like she hadn't heard me. I held up the phone. Her smile froze. "Oh, that," she said too quickly. "That was just Blaine. He's a coach at the gym. We were just goofing around after the dance thing." Goofing around? Yeah, we were sweaty and joking. I leaned in because I lost my balance, I think. You know how those events are? I stared at her. "You lost your balance? With your arm around his neck?" She narrowed her eyes. "Are you seriously accusing me of cheating because of one photo? I'm asking you who he is, and why you looked like you were about to kiss him." She scoffed. "It's nothing, Carter. God, you always overanalyze everything. He's just a friend." "What's his full name?" "What? His name, Jenna. What's his last name?" She folded her arms. "Why?" "Because I want to know who the hell is grabbing my wife like that." She hesitated. That was all I needed. That split-second pause, the kind where someone decides whether to lie or dodge. "I'm not telling you," she said finally, tight-lipped. "Because I know you. You'll stalk him, or confront him, or show up at the gym like a psycho." And nothing even happened. I walked to the bedroom without saying another word and pulled out my suitcase. Jenna followed me, voice rising. "Are you really doing this? Over a stupid picture?" "No," I said. "I'm doing this because my wife's cuddling up to another man at some bougie gym party and won't even tell me who he is." "That's not nothing, Jenna. You're blowing this out of proportion." I zipped the suitcase and turned to her. "You do what you want. Go goof around with whoever you want. But I'm not staying here while you pretend it's fine." I walked out. No dinner. No anniversary. Just silence. She called after me, swearing it meant nothing. But her voice sounded more scared of me finding out the truth than of losing me. That was all I needed to know. And just like that, 10 years unraveled in a single evening. The first night alone was the worst. I checked into a Hyatt down in Midtown. Business class room. Queen bed, one-night reservation. I told the guy at the desk I was traveling for work. He nodded like he didn't care. That was fine. I didn't want to talk anyway. Once I got to the room, I just sat on the edge of the bed for a long time. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything. I just sat there in the silence, staring at the suitcase I'd packed in under 5 minutes. 10 years of marriage, and I left with enough for 3 changes of clothes and my work laptop. I kept picturing that photo. Jenna's hand on his neck. That little smirk on her face. The way she used to look at me, back when things were different. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old pictures. There we were in Asheville, hiking, at our friend's wedding in Charleston. Her first birthday after we moved to Atlanta, sitting on the couch with a grocery store cake in her lap, laughing with her mouth full. That was about 4 years ago, right before we moved. I got promoted to lead analyst at the firm, and they asked me to relocate. Bigger office, better salary. Jenna said she was proud of me. She quit her job at the time, something in corporate wellness, and started over as a personal trainer. I thought it was a temporary thing. But then she joined that elite lifestyle gym and never looked back. The kind with eucalyptus towels and smoothie stations and executive boot camps. She started hanging out with a new crowd. Influencer types. Meal preppers. People who called themselves mindset coaches and said things like, "Elevate your frequency." They were all over our house. Smooth-talking guys with perfect teeth and endless motivation quotes. Women who looked like they could break you in half without dropping their collagen water. I didn't fit. I tried for a while. But they made everything about intentional living and manifestation, and how you had to discard what no longer aligns. Apparently, I didn't align. Jenna stopped inviting me to their events after I made a joke about a guy named Skylar who claimed he could unlock core wounds through dance. I checked my phone. Still nothing from her. No call. No text. No apology. Instead, I had 2 unread messages from Lexi, Jenna's best friend from the gym. Lexi, hey Carter, please don't disappear. We really need to talk to you. Lexi, let's meet up? I can explain what's going on better than Jenna did. She's really hurting too. I almost threw the phone across the room. Hurting? She wouldn't even say the guy's name. I dropped it on the nightstand and laid back on the bed, staring up at the ceiling. I'd never felt more invisible in my life. And somewhere underneath the grief and confusion, a quiet anger started to form, the kind that comes when you finally realize how long you've been shut out of your own story. I agreed to meet them, but not at Lexi's apartment like she wanted. I knew a setup when I smelled one. I told her to pick a restaurant. Public place. Neutral ground. Somewhere I could walk away without anyone blocking the door. We met at a farm-to-table spot Jenna liked. One of those sleek minimalist joints where everything costs 3 times what it should. The kind of place where they ask if you're still enjoying your experience, instead of if you need anything else. I got there early and asked the hostess for a corner table, somewhere with a good view of the whole place. Old habit from working in analytics. I like knowing the layout. 5 minutes later, they arrived like a coordinated PR team. Lexi, all warm smiles and fake concern. A couple other gym friends I recognized, Carly, the bar instructor, and Deshawn, who led some kind of awakened masculinity program. There were others I didn't know by name. All of them fit that same vibe, too polished, too calm, too sure of themselves. They sat down like it was a casual group dinner. I didn't bother pretending. I pulled out my phone, opened the gallery, and slid it across the table. The photo. Jenna, in that green dress, arms wrapped around a man whose hand was halfway down her back. Too close. Too comfortable. Too deliberate. Let's make this easy, I said. Who is he? Silence. Lexi glanced at Carly. Carly looked down at her menu like she was choosing a dessert. Deshawn leaned back, folding his arms. I'm not here for games, I said, louder. Someone tell me who he is, or I walk. Still no answer. Is this some kind of group NDA? You all agreed not to say anything. Lexi gave me this gentle, therapist-like look. Carter, this isn't how we wanted to approach this. Oh, I'm sorry, I said, leaning forward. Was there a better way to address the fact that my wife is wrapped around some dude she won't even name? She didn't cheat, Carly said finally. You're misinterpreting the photo. Then clarify it. Nobody moved. That was it. I stood up, slowly. Collected my phone. You know what? This tells me everything I need to know. You're not trying to explain anything. You're circling the wagons. You're protecting her. Or him. Or both. Carter, wait. Lexi reached for my arm. I stepped back. I gave you a chance, I said. You used it to insult my intelligence. Deshawn shook his head. Man, you're operating from a place of fear. I laughed. No, I'm operating from a place of betrayal. And now I know it's not just her. It's all of you. I walked out without looking back. When I got home, I didn't say a word to Jenna. She was on the couch, TV paused, like she'd been waiting. I didn't even look at her. I went straight to the bedroom and started changing the locks. Deadbolts. Door chain. I added a keypad lock to the guest room door and moved in that night. We still had to live in the same house, at least for now, because of our son, Evan. He was 9 and didn't need to see either of us fall apart. I still packed his lunches. Still helped with homework. Still drove him to school. But Jenna? I barely looked at her. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't accuse. I just went cold. She kept saying things like, we need to talk, and this isn't what you think. But she never gave me what I asked for. The name. The truth. And until she did, she wasn't my wife. She was just another stranger living in my house. 3 days later, Jenna asked if I'd be willing to sit down with her again, just the 2 of us, at home. She promised no surprises, no tricks. There's someone I want you to meet, she said. I didn't say yes right away. I told her I'd think about it. I wasn't interested in another ambush, but I was interested in answers. So I said she could have 30 minutes. No more. That night, I came home from picking up Evan and found the living room rearranged. Jenna had moved the coffee table out of the way and lit candles like it was a mindfulness retreat. 2 people were sitting on the couch. One of them was Blaine. I didn't need to be introduced. He looked exactly like he did in the photo. Tall, tanned, soft jawline. Barely their stubble. He was wearing joggers and a black compression shirt, like he'd just come from a photo shoot titled, "Hot Personal Trainer Finds Peace." Next to him sat a woman I hadn't seen before. Early 40s, lean, striking. She stood up first. "I'm Ava," she said. "Blaine's wife." Wife. That one caught me off guard. Jenna gestured for me to sit down across from them. "We wanted to explain," she said gently, like she was hosting a podcast episode. "Blaine and Ava are part of something bigger than just the gym." I didn't sit. I stayed standing, arms crossed. "Go ahead." Blaine smiled like he was about to bless the room with his truth. "We work with couples. We help them reconnect through openness, physicality, and emotional alignment." Ava nodded. "We believe that real relationships thrive when partners explore trust and body harmony in shared spaces. That's what your wife has been learning." I turned to Jenna. "You said you didn't cheat. So what was that photo?" Jenna looked nervous for the first time in days. It was a moment. After a session, Blaine and I had practiced. "I hadn't told you yet. That was my mistake." "Practiced?" I repeated. "You mean you were intimate?" "Emotionally," she said quickly. "And yes, physically. But it wasn't about betrayal, Carter. It was about growth. About trust." I finally sat down. Not because I was calm, I just didn't trust my legs to hold me up anymore. Ava jumped in, clearly trying to manage the moment. "What we offer is guided exploration. Structured emotional openness. Your wife was ready. Many couples in our program." I held up a hand. "Many couples?" Blaine nodded. "We have full participation from most of our gym's long-term members. It's a closed circle built on confidentiality and mutual growth. That's why people were hesitant to speak with you. It's not about hiding. It's about sacred boundaries." "Sacred," I said flatly. "And you didn't think I might want to be involved in this sacred journey?" Jenna leaned forward. "I was going to tell you. I just didn't know how. And I didn't want you to judge it before you experienced it." "Too late." Blaine smiled again, like he hadn't just detonated my marriage. "Look, man, I get it. This isn't mainstream. But we're redefining fidelity. We're rewriting connection." I stared at Jenna. "So you slept with him, and now you're trying to rebrand it as growth?" She didn't answer. Just looked down at her lap. I stood up again. "This isn't healing. This is you joining a damn cult with exercise equipment." "Don't do that," Jenna whispered. "Don't reduce it like that. This has helped me, really helped me, understand what I want in life." I looked at all three of them. The candles. The tight smiles. The scent of whatever calming oil was burning. And in that moment, I knew. I wasn't just losing my wife. I was up against something bigger than cheating. I was up against belief. Jenna had already left me. She just hadn't moved out yet. I didn't sleep that night. After Blaine and Ava left, Jenna went to bed like it was any other evening. Like she hadn't just dropped a live grenade in the middle of our marriage and smiled while it went off. I stayed up in the guest room, phone in hand, replaying every second of that session. The way they used words like emotional openness and redefining fidelity. The part that kept echoing in my head was when Jenna said she'd already experimented with Blaine, all before telling me a damn thing. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. The next morning, I woke up early, waited until Jenna took Evan to school, and dug out a small voice recorder I used back when I was still doing freelance interview projects. I tested it, made sure the audio was clean. Then I opened my nightstand drawer and slipped it under a stack of unused birthday cards. I knew she planned to invite Blaine and Ava back. She'd hinted at it. Something about a follow-up conversation. "For clarity," she said. Like clarity was a scented candle you could light in a dark room. Sure enough, 2 days later, she texted me while I was out grabbing groceries. "Jenna, Blaine and Ava will be over around 6. Just a chat. No pressure. I think it will help." I didn't respond. I just came home, grabbed the recorder, and made sure it was running before I placed it on top of the cabinet in the hallway where no one would see it. At exactly 6, they showed up. Hugs. Laughs. Like nothing had happened. I sat quietly as Blaine launched into more of his rehearsed nonsense about cross-spiritual compatibility. Ava kept using phrases like energy monogamy and polydirectional support. Jenna sat beside them, beaming like someone who'd just joined an exclusive country club. I didn't say much. I just nodded along, pretending to listen while watching the battery tick down on my recorder from across the room. Then it happened. Blaine leaned forward and said, "If you're still feeling unsure, we totally get it. That's why we want to keep this between us until you're ready." You don't need the outside world complicating your journey. Jenna added, that's why I deleted the video. From your phone. Just now. I looked up, startled. My phone? I asked. She smiled. The one you left charging in the bedroom. I saw the file. I knew you'd try to record us, Carter. You deleted it? I had to. It's for everyone's protection. Especially yours. Blaine nodded, hand on her knee. Trust starts with boundaries. And you'll thank us later. I didn't speak. I didn't argue. But something went cold in me. That night, after they left, I went into the guest room and shut the door behind me. Jenna knocked once. I didn't answer. When I was sure she was asleep, I pulled out the hallway recorder and played it back. Crystal clear. I copied the file to 3 different drives. Then I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, my hands trembling. She didn't just lie. She didn't just sleep with another man. She tampered with evidence. And that told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. The next morning, I called my company's legal liaison and asked for a referral. She gave me a name without hesitation. Erica Vance, she said. Smart. Ruthless. Specializes in divorce and financial separation. You'll want her on your side. I booked a consult that afternoon. Erica's office was downtown. Sleek glass. Minimalist furniture. Not a single picture on her desk. She shook my hand with 0 pleasantries. Just a sharp nod and a single word. Tell me everything. So I did. I laid it all out. The photo, the man in it, the deleted phone recording, the culty nonsense with Blaine and Ava, the group's silence at that dinner. I even told her about the gym, how Jenna's entire social life had shifted into this self-help echo chamber that dressed cheating up as spiritual growth. Erica didn't flinch. Do you still live in the home together? She asked, clicking her pen. For now. Not ideal, but manageable, she said. Do not move out permanently. If you do, you could be seen as abandoning the property. I nodded. She works part-time, yes? She's a personal trainer. Some days she works 5 hours, others it's a podcast and smoothies. Then alimony is a risk, Erica said flatly. You've been the primary provider, yes? For most of the marriage. She scribbled notes like she was already drafting the court strategy in her head. You'll need documentation, bank statements, spending records, proof of her activities. Anything that shows instability, secrecy, or cult-like influences. This Blaine guy, for example. I want to know everything about him. Already on it, I said. Because I had also hired a private investigator that morning. He was recommended through a security guy at work. Retired cop, mid-50s, no nonsense. I sent him Blaine's full name, the gym's info, and every photo I could find on Jenna's Instagram from the last year. His response came in one sentence. Give me 5 days. Back at the house, Jenna tried to play nice. She cooked more, asked how work was going, even offered to co-host Evan's school event with me like we were still a team. But I didn't take the bait. I was done playing house. I was polite, calm, predictable. I tucked Evan in, checked homework, folded laundry like nothing had changed. But every night, once I locked the guest room door, I reviewed my notes, timelines, evidence, expenses, names. I wasn't just planning a divorce. I was preparing for war. Jenna kept floating these little lines, like, I know it's been weird, but I still love you. What we had, it's not broken, Carter. It's just evolving. I didn't respond. Because I wasn't interested in evolving into someone who let betrayal be rebranded as enlightenment. She thought I was stuck. But I was 10 steps ahead. And I wasn't just getting out. I was taking everything with me. The knock on the door came 3 mornings before Erica planned to file the paperwork. I was halfway through making Evan's lunch when I opened it. It was Jenna, suitcase in hand, eyes puffy like she'd been crying for hours. She didn't say anything, just stared at me. I'm moving out, she said quietly. I didn't react. Didn't ask why. Didn't offer to help. Instead, I stepped aside and let her pass. She went straight to the bedroom and came out 15 minutes later with a duffel and a yoga mat. No hard feelings, she asked, voice trembling. For the record, I never stopped loving you. I just looked at her. She left without another word. I should have felt relief. But my stomach didn't agree. Something about her tone didn't sit right. She didn't sound defeated. She sounded rehearsed. That afternoon, Erica called me. You're not going to like this, she said. She filed a restraining order. I froze. What? Claiming verbal and emotional abuse. Claims you threw objects. That she feared for her safety and Evan's. I almost couldn't speak. That's completely false. She's trying to gain custody leverage, Erica said flatly. We've seen it before. I sat down, heart pounding. What do I do? Nothing, she said. You don't respond. You don't call her. You don't show up where she is. We'll respond through the court. I was shaking. She's trying to make me look dangerous. Yes, but we have what she doesn't. Evidence. That night, I sat in the guest room and reviewed the last 2 weeks of audio from the hallway recorder. I'd moved it every few days, placed it in rooms during conversations, quiet moments, even while Jenna was on speakerphone with her friends. One clip stood out. A conversation between Jenna and Lexi, recorded 2 days before she moved out. Jenna, he's getting close. He's got a lawyer. He's cold as hell now. Lexi, that's scary. You think he'll try for full custody? Jenna, Blaine says I should preempt it. File for protection, maybe get ahead on custody. Lexi, like a restraining order? Jenna, pause, he hasn't touched me. But Blaine says it's about what people believe, not what's true. I paused the recording. That was it. That was all I needed. I clipped the audio, backed it up to 3 drives, and emailed it to Erica that night with the subject line, she's following Blaine's playbook. The next day, I went to Evan's school drop-off. Jenna was already there, standing near her car. I didn't approach, but she walked over anyway. You're going to regret this, she said under her breath. Regret what? Taking him from me. Making me look like the bad guy. You don't think Evan will notice when I'm not around? I didn't respond. She leaned closer, her voice ice cold. Maybe he'll start calling Blaine Dad. He's already closer to him than you anyway. I just looked at her. Not angry. Not rattled. Just quiet. She flinched first. Then she turned and walked away. Later that evening, my private investigator called. You were right to be suspicious, he said. Blaine Turner's not certified. Not in anything. No license, no credentials. Just self-published ebooks and a YouTube channel. Anything else? A lot. He paused. Multiple complaints from former gym members. Inappropriate conduct, grooming behavior, coercion. None pressed charges, but I got names. He's been quietly removed from 3 wellness centers in the last 6 years. I exhaled. Send it all to Erica. Already done. That night, I stood at the kitchen sink, staring out the window, Evan in the other room watching cartoons. And I realized something. She hadn't just tried to hurt me. She was willing to lie, manipulate, and weaponize the system to win. But I wasn't scared anymore. Because this time, I had proof. And I was going to use it. The courtroom was colder than I expected. The air, heavy with anticipation, made the silence feel thick. I sat with Erica at a table near the back, going over the final details of our case. Jenna was already there, sitting across from me with her lawyer, a sharp, young guy in a navy suit, who probably couldn't have been more than a couple years out of law school. He kept his head down, flipping through documents like it was just another case to him. But for me, this wasn't just another case. It was the beginning of the end of a decade of my life. It was the moment I would prove to the court, to Jenna, and to myself that I wasn't the villain of this story. The judge walked in, and everyone stood. A middle-aged man with silver hair, his glasses perched on the tip of his nose. He didn't waste any time. We're here today to discuss the temporary protective order filed by the respondent and the subsequent motions for custody and financial support. Let's begin with opening statements. Jenna's lawyer stood up first, all confidence and polished arrogance. Your Honor, he began, my client has filed for a temporary protective order against the petitioner, citing multiple instances of verbal and emotional abuse. We also seek temporary custody of the minor child, Evan, as my client feels his safety and well-being are at risk. We ask that the court grant the order and the custody request until further investigation can be completed. I clenched my fists under the table. Erica leaned in, her voice low. We're going to crush this. Let them make their case. We've got everything we need. When it was my turn, I stood up, calm but resolute. The judge gestured for me to proceed. Your Honor, I started. I respect the process. But I'm here today because I believe I'm being falsely accused. There's been no evidence of abuse on my part. There's been no history of violence. This motion is an attempt to manipulate the system for custody and financial gain. I glanced at Jenna. She avoided my eyes, her hands tightly clasped in her lap. I didn't care. I needed to stay focused. I have proof, I said. Proof that this entire situation has been manufactured. My wife, the respondent, is being advised by Blaine Turner, a man with no certification or formal training in any field related to mental health or family counseling. I have documentation showing that he has manipulated her into making false accusations for the sole purpose of gaining an advantage in this proceeding. I glanced over at Erica, who nodded slightly. She was ready. We also have recordings, Your Honor. Conversations between my wife and her associates. We have text messages, emails, all showing intent to undermine our marriage and fabricate evidence. I'm here for the truth, and I have the evidence to back it up. There was a murmur in the courtroom. Jenna's lawyer straightened, but he didn't interrupt. He knew we had them. I looked back at the judge. Your Honor, I am asking for the protection of my son. I'm asking for temporary custody and visitation rights, as well as the immediate dismissal of this restraining order. Jenna is not only attempting to manipulate the court, she is attempting to manipulate our son. Jenna's lawyer stood up to object. Your Honor, this is a blatant attempt to discredit my client. The judge raised a hand, silencing him. We'll hear the evidence, he said, but I'm warning both parties. I expect this to remain respectful. I sat back down. Erica leaned in again, her voice steady. We're about to bury them. The evidence was next. Erica introduced everything, the text messages between Jenna and Blaine, showing how they had discussed using the restraining order as leverage. We played the recordings in court, every word, every confession about Jenna's intentions. It painted her exactly as she was, a woman willing to lie, manipulate, and bend the truth to her will. When the private investigator's report came through, it was like hitting a second-round knockout. Blaine wasn't just some alternative lifestyle guru. He was a fraud, a man who'd been quietly removed from multiple gyms for inappropriate conduct and had been the subject of several complaints for grooming and manipulative behavior. Jenna's lawyer didn't know how to respond. They had nothing left to defend her with. The judge finally called a break. Jenna's lawyer pulled her aside for a whispered conversation, and I could see the frustration on their faces. I felt a strange mix of vindication and disgust. This wasn't just a failed marriage. It was a manipulation game on a scale I never imagined. When the hearing resumed, the judge addressed the room. I've seen enough, he said, his voice authoritative. I'm granting temporary custody to the petitioner, Carter Green, and the restraining order will be dismissed. We will reconvene next week to discuss a formal separation agreement, as well as alimony and child support arrangements. Jenna's face went pale. She didn't even argue. She just sat there, shoulders slumped. Her lawyer seemed to lose steam. The judge turned to me. Mr. Green, I advise you to use this time wisely. Focus on your son and ensure his emotional well-being moving forward. I will have the details of custody formalized next week. I nodded. As I left the courtroom, I felt a weight lift off me. But I knew this wasn't over. The legal battle would continue, and there would be more to fight for: the house, the assets, Evan's future. But today, I won. Jenna was about to realize just how deep she'd dug herself in. The courthouse was quiet when I stepped out. The sun was low in the sky, casting long shadows across the steps. I didn't feel victorious yet. Not entirely. But something had shifted. Jenna had underestimated me. And now, I was going to make sure she understood that I wasn't the pushover she thought I was. I walked toward the parking lot, my thoughts racing, when I saw her. Standing by the curb, waiting for me. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. I hadn't seen her like this in days, vulnerable, lost. I paused, 1,000 thoughts running through my mind. What did she want from me now? She stepped forward, voice shaking. Carter, she said quietly, her tone pleading. I know you're angry. I know I've messed up, but I'm asking you to think about Evan. I crossed my arms, my posture stiff. Don't try to play the for Evan's sake card, Jenna. It's too late for that. I'm not playing anything, she said, her voice breaking. I'm begging you, please. You don't understand what's been happening. Blaine, he told me I had to do this. He said it was the only way we'd survive this. I didn't know how to get out of it. Get out of what, Jenna? I snapped. You were living in some delusion where cheating and lying were all just part of self-growth. You let him manipulate you. You let him manipulate us. She winced at my words, but she didn't back down. I didn't want to hurt you. I didn't. But everything felt so real with him. And with you. I don't know anymore. I shook my head, disgusted. This isn't about Blaine, Jenna. This is about you. You made a choice. A choice to lie, to tear everything apart. And you still haven't come clean about any of it. Her face twisted in pain. I'm trying, Carter. I'm trying to explain, but I don't know how. I don't know what else to say. I stared at her for a long moment. This woman, the one I thought I knew, the one I thought I could trust, was a stranger to me now. I don't want to hear it, I said, my voice cold. You had your chance. You had your moment to be honest, to fix things. But you chose him. And now you're left with nothing. You're left with your lies and your manipulation. Her eyes filled with tears, and she took a step closer, her voice desperate. Carter, please. I'll leave the gym. I'll end things with Blaine. Just please, don't take Evan away from me. I looked her in the eye, my heart pounding, but I didn't move. You already lost him. You lost me. And you've lost yourself. So no, I'm not going to let you drag me back into this mess. Not anymore. I turned away from her, and every instinct told me to keep walking. To keep my focus on Evan, on what I had to protect now. But I couldn't stop the last thing I said before I got into my car. I'm suing the gym. For everything. I'm taking them down. Her face went pale, and for a moment, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear. She opened her mouth to say something, but I didn't give her a chance. Don't ever contact me again, Jenna, I said firmly. We're done. With that, I drove off, leaving her standing there. I could still see her in the rearview mirror, small, lost. And as much as it hurt, I knew it was the last time I'd ever look back. When I got home, Evan was sitting at the kitchen table, his school bag slung over one shoulder. He looked up when I entered, his face lighting up just a little bit. He'd been quiet these past few days, understandably so. Hey, bud, I said, my voice softer than it had been all week. How was school? Good, he answered, a little hesitant. Are we still going to the park later? I nodded, forcing a smile. Of course. But first, we need to talk about something. He raised an eyebrow, curiosity mixed with concern. I sat down across from him. I just want you to know, no matter what happens with Mommy and me, I'm always going to be here for you. You're my #1 priority. Always. Evan's face softened. I know, Dad. I reached across the table and took his hand, holding it tight. We're going to be all right. You and me. And for the first time in days, I finally believed it. The first few weeks after everything went down were a blur. The divorce papers were filed, and Jenna didn't contest a thing. She tried to reach out a couple of times, mostly through texts, but I ignored every one of them. I knew what she was doing, trying to manipulate the situation, trying to make me feel guilty for the life I'd chosen. But this time, I wasn't playing. I was focused on one thing, Evan. I moved into a small apartment in the city. Nothing too fancy, a 2-bedroom place that felt like a fresh start. The building was quiet, the neighborhood nice enough. There was a park nearby, so Evan could play soccer, ride his bike, and just be a kid without the tension of what had been going on at home. The first night we spent there, I set up his room with the same bedspread he'd had at our old house. He barely said a word, but when I tucked him in, he gave me a little smile. We're gonna be okay, right, Dad? He asked, his eyes wide and trusting. Yeah, kiddo, I said, brushing his hair back. We're gonna be better than okay. It wasn't easy, but slowly, things started to settle. I was working long hours at the office, but there were no more late-night arguments, no more secrets between us. I took Evan out on weekends, trips to the zoo, movies, whatever felt right. I stopped checking my phone obsessively, stopped worrying about what Jenna might do next. One night, about a month after we'd moved in, I got a call from Erica. She'd handled everything so far, kept me on track with the legal stuff, and I'd stopped expecting anything out of the ordinary. But that night, her voice was different. You won the lawsuit, she said. The gym settled. You're getting a payout. I let the words sink in. I hadn't thought about suing the gym in weeks. Jenna had been so focused on her relationship with Blaine, and the whole thing just felt so far behind me. But hearing that they were paying for what they did to me, to us, felt like some kind of justice. Not just that, Erica continued. I spoke with the investigator again. Blaine's been quietly pushed out of the fitness world, but I think you need to take a look at this. She paused. His past is catching up to him. It's bigger than you thought. I didn't need to hear more. That was enough. The next morning, I signed the papers for a full separation, which included a financial settlement. Jenna agreed to it all, without even asking for more. I'd get full custody of Evan, and Jenna would have visitation rights, though I wasn't sure if that would last. I didn't care. What mattered was that I was in control of my life again. A few months later, I got a call from Erica again. She told me that the gym had been forced to restructure due to its unethical practices, and that Blaine was facing multiple lawsuits. It was over. I smiled to myself. When I walked into our new backyard one Saturday afternoon and saw Evan playing soccer with the neighbor kids, laughing without a care in the world, I finally felt the weight of everything lift off my chest. No more fear, no more uncertainty. I was free. And for the first time in a long while, I wasn't looking over my shoulder. I wasn't worrying about what Jenna or Blaine or anyone else might do next. I was focused on my son, on our future. I looked at Evan as he kicked the ball to his friend and ran after it, his face flushed with excitement. "Hey, bud," I called out, my voice warm. "How about we get ice cream after this?" His face lit up. "Yeah, with sprinkles." "Absolutely." And as I watched him run off with his friends, laughing like the world was his, I finally felt at peace.